Hi, Sandy. Welcome to the video podcast of Product Manager Thought Collectives. It's
Hello.
great having you here. I think
Thank you.
usually the first question I start with is, could you please introduce yourself with recent updates as if you were catching up with an old friend?
Yes. So, hi everyone. I'm Sandy Coe, currently based in London. I've actually been based in London for a long time, even though I haven't gained a British accent yet. But I've been here for almost 18 years. And
Whoa, okay.
another big milestone that I reached recently is I celebrated my 20th anniversary at Google.
20th
Um,
anniversary at Google. Oh my gosh.
yes,
Whoa.
yes.
What? Okay.
So actually, what we're talking about today, PMing, being a product manager, is my third career at
Oh,
Google.
did not know
Yeah,
that. I thought it's second career after marketing, but okay, that's
yeah.
interesting.
I'm old enough to have gone through three careers, so it is a really exciting time for me, and I look forward to talking to you more about that.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So just more information. What was your first career then?
Not at Google.
Okay,
So
okay.
my first career was it's so funny to talk about this now, but I was an electrical engineer at a telecom company.
That's
So
amazing. I
actually
studied engineering
trained,
in college as well. Women in STEM. That's awesome.
yeah, so that was actually my degree, electrical engineering, which I barely used.
Yeah,
But it's helpful in other ways, like problem solving
problem
is
solving,
at
definitely.
the root of all that we do. Uh,
Definitely, definitely.
so that was my first career, and it didn't last very long. Unfortunately,
Hmm.
when I graduated, telecom was just like not doing that well. Well, I took the job, and then telecom wasn't doing that well, so I didn't last very long, and not
Hmm.
to anything that was my fault. But it kind of forced me very early on in my career to think about like, well, what do I want to have as part of my job, not just to use
Hmm.
the skills that I graduated with, but really I knew very early on then, and we could talk about this more
Yeah.
in PMing, but I knew I wanted to have some creativity in my life.
Okay. I
So
love
it
that.
was
Okay.
really an interesting forcing function to get sadly laid off, but I was a new grad and the cheapest one, discardable.
Mm.
And I went to New York to do some exploring. It's like a mini gap, after my first career. I did some interesting things. I worked for a photographer, a really famous photographer, doing
Okay.
documenting. Do I want, the question that I was exploring there was like, do I want to be in commercial photography? Let's see.
Yeah.
At
Yeah.
the same time, I was doing an internship at Spin Magazine, which is a music magazine, a really old one. I don't know.
Sorry, I
Really
never.
old.
I mean, I didn't grow up in the States, so I never heard of it. I mean, it could be
Ah,
popular.
it was, yeah. And I was exploring what the job of a photo photographer, a photo editor, what was
Oh,
in the magazine industry.
okay.
So it was nice to be able to explore. There's more,
Yeah.
more there, but that was like kind of what happened before Google. And then when I started Google, that was like my three
That's a
careers.
transition. Nice.
Yeah.
So the second question is about your transition within Google, over the last 20 years, which is amazing. So you
Yeah.
transition from product marketing manager to product manager. How was that experience? And when did you decide, oh, I want to make that switch? Like, when did you have that moment? Like, oh, I think product management is for me, not marketing.
Yeah. I'll even step you back a little bit more in history because my first job at Google
Hmm.
was support manager. So
Oh,
if
okay.
yeah, so my team would look at if your ads were not serving, which was Google's bread and butter at that time, triage what's happening, communicate back to these large advertisers, the
Yep. Yep.
turnaround time and solution, and that I think was like the big connection with the problem solving that I built from engineering, and I did
Okay.
that
Yeah.
for
Yeah. Yeah.
and I would say the constant theme on my progression through Google has been look at what you're good at, look at what's valuable to the organization, the company, and
Mm.
really scrutinize what you like and dislike and where you
Okay.
want to
Okay.
grow. So
Yeah.
even actually within that ad support manager role, I didn't only just, I started from like troubleshooting issues,
Yeah.
but kind of built that into like, well, let me try people managing. And
Oh.
then, well, I see that there's an opportunity with all of the data that we're gathering, with all of the bug submissions, to understand trends in maybe where advertisers don't understand the product and we can
That's
improve
true.
it.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not
That's
only,
true. That's
when it
true. You
comes
see
to,
the patterns. Yeah.
yeah, their patterns. It's like I kind of evolved that into, well, what am I interested in? What does the company need? What value can I provide, and kind of progress through that.
Okay.
So I think the big jump I did
Mm.
from being a support manager was I couldn't find anything within that world that really scratched the itch of like I need to be creative too.
Okay. Oh yeah. You want to be right. Right. You mentioned that earlier.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
And
Yeah.
so after 10 years of doing that, I was like, oh yeah, I came to New York wanting to be creative. What can get me there? What can get
Mm.
me that in Google? And so that's when I actually made the big move to do product marketing.
Okay.
And
Okay.
I did leverage my knowledge in digital advertising to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
That's
I
good.
knew the ad serving systems a lot. Well, now let me jump to being the person that serves ads to consumers to
Right.
tell a
Right.
story, to get them to try our products like Google Plus in the days I worked on that. And so fast forward, I had maybe 8 to 10 years also exploring that world of product management.
Mm.
And
Mm.
I
Mm.
kept pushing for projects that really just itched my personal interests, but
Mm.
served
Mm.
the org, what the org wanted to do as well. And
Yeah.
luckily at that time, my managing team and I were really trying to get some attention on an audience that we thought was underserved. So I worked in consumer search on Google, the most mature product,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
on the
That's
planet,
amazing.
and
Yeah.
at Google. But is everybody's needs being served well? And so we were
Mm.
looking at Gen Z youth.
Okay. You start with Gen Z. Boom. Okay. Yes.
Are they coming to Google first? Actually,
Right.
no.
Right. Right. That's true.
They're
That's
going to
true.
social channels, all this stuff. So, as a marketing team, product marketing, one of our jobs is to raise awareness of opportunities and audience needs to the product team. So, I actually got to work very, very closely on kind of like a mini task force with some
Mm.
pretty senior product directors and product team members, product managers, to really build out this business case of why we should focus more on Gen Z. What would the product look like? Why are their needs unique? And
Mm.
really, at the end of the day, why it's important for our business, because these users are going to be growing up and you want them to
Right. 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 Yeah.
use
Yeah. That's
Google.
true. Yeah.
And that was like such a great experience because I actually got to the point where I would ideate, like, what would this
Mm.
product look like? And, that's kind of like entering the world of product management.
Management. That's true. That's true. That's
Yeah.
true. Okay.
So
That's a
you
natural
landed,
transition. Yeah.
you landed the audience, the insights, and then what does the solution look like?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then as like a product manager, that was like, okay, your part is done. Thank you very much. You proposed, and then now we will consider, and then it's out of your power, really. Like, I could influence as much as I want, but to take it to decide to build it, to take it to actually developing it, was like not part of what my job was. And I was like, oh, I want to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I see. Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Yeah,
Right. Yeah.
I'm not satisfied with where
Okay.
my journey ended as a product manager in that project. So that's
So
when I knew. I was like, okay, maybe this is for me.
yeah. So that's such a natural progression. But the moment you realize, oh, I want to transition to product management, versus it actually, officially you have the PM title. Like, how long does it take, and then how was that journey?
I actually wrote a really soul bearing LinkedIn post on this because
Oh, okay. I'll link that in our
it was
podcast later. Yeah. Yeah.
it was hard. It was really hard. And I
Yeah.
think like I'll tell you in more detail what happened, but I think my big learnings for that is um, do the work to evaluate if the career is,
True.
really what you want, because through
Yeah.
that and talking to people that do the job,
Right.
running
Right.
from day to day, then you build conviction,
Hmm.
and the conviction will carry you through possibly some like really tough spots where you need to decide if you're going to power through or if you're going to give up. Um,
Oh, okay.
and so my curiosity built my conviction, and then I was super vocal about what I was looking for and got help. But it took a long time for me personally, and
Mm-hmm.
it might be this case in today's job market. To be honest, it's really hard out there.
Yeah.
I keep asking for help and persevere. So,
Yeah.
so for me, and being very lucky to be at Google in a big company, we have these programs where you can do job rotations. So if
Oh, okay.
it is something where a PMM it does happen quite a lot, where they do a full-time rotation for maybe 9 months to a year as a
Mm.
PM to
Mm.
try out if it's a career move that they want to commit to.
Is that what you did?
So, why it was hard for me is
Oh.
I wanted to do this in a climate where nobody could afford to, my marketing team could not afford to lend my headcount and live
Oh.
without me, not doing the job because it's not
Right.
something
Right. Right.
they can backfill.
Yeah.
So they said no. I asked like, please, 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 and they're like, no. Okay, let me find alternative options. Well, what if I stay on and do the job
Right. Right.
and you give me 20%? So that's kind of like Google has been famous for a while. It's
20,
like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
20%
80, 20.
project.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, 20%, try out a product management role. But really, at the end of the day, what that means is you're doing two jobs for, I did that for a whole year, two jobs. And it's not 20% when you're like all in and really want to get the most out of it.
It's like 200%, right? Because you have to do your normal job and another. Wow. And then you have
Yeah,
a
so
family as well. Like, how? What?
it
Okay.
was a lot. Yeah, so why I wanted to point out conviction. So
Commission. Yeah.
at that point, I had already done so much homework, talked to a lot of PMs
Mm.
about like really tell me like when you hate your job, and then if I like what you said, then maybe I'm good
Right,
for
right.
this,
That's true.
right?
That's true. You do your customer research. Your customers are existing product managers, right? Okay. Kind
Yeah,
of.
yeah. So and some people are really honest with me, and I was like, okay, like I can deal with that. Like actually, what you
Oh,
said is like not bad
nothing.
to me at all.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and finding a 20% project actually at Google as a PM is also
Mm.
not easy, because some organizations find that it can be quite disruptive to bring in another PM to a set of engineers that's used to working with like already one PM, and there's another one that I need to talk to for another project. Or you show up and then you download their knowledge and then you leave in like 9 months. So it's really
Mm.
disruptive for the team. So
Yeah.
I did have to cold call and knock on people's doors to try and find a 20% project. And luckily I
You
landed
found.
a really good one,
Oh,
which is the current team that I'm working with actually, in Chrome
Chrome.
autofill.
Oh, that's how you land your current. Oh, that's like a great door to open to a new world. Okay.
I would say, yeah, it wasn't super easy, but at least like to land there in a product that was consumer facing, because I worked on consumer search. It really was like a really natural start for me
Yeah,
to
yeah,
kick off
definitely.
my PM career.
Yeah.
But it was a challenge still. Like I did 1 year with them, and
Mm.
still in Europe, they're like, you can't transition until you have a headcount.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
And
That's okay. That's typical.
yeah,
Yeah.
and so not a lot of teams had headcounts, and um, I really had to pull some favors to make that happen and stay in the team. And I would say not me pulling favors, but
Yeah. Yeah.
my hiring manager
Have
believed
to.
in me that much that there was some like horse trading of headcount
Yeah.
to help me stay on the team. Yeah. So it
That's
eventually
such a
happened.
great story because you have a hiring manager that believes in you, know your background, and will do the thing to get you by doing all these like shuffling. That's amazing. I think that's the way to
Absolutely.
go.
It
Nice.
is like went the extra mile. I think for me, just speaking generally, it was just such a great example of like how having a sponsor that goes out
So
the way to make
out and
things
about.
happen
Yeah.
for your career. I was like, I need to return that favor to someone in the future because I it was not something that I would have asked for because I wouldn't have imagined anyone would go and do that.
Right. I
Yeah.
love that. Yeah. Just
So
pass it along. Yeah, pass it along. Yeah.
that's along, yeah. Um, and and it really was like, oh wow, he went out of the way. So I still had to interview. It wasn't
Oh, that's right. You still have an interview. It is still a formal process. There's still technical interviews and stuff, right? Yeah, that's
still
right.
have
Okay.
to prove yourself. Like
No,
I
that's
did
true.
Google for I don't even know how many years, but like prove yourself. So I could not let it was such like this golden opportunity. I worked my ass off to
Yeah.
ace those interviews and um, I think Google PM interviews are notorious for like making sure you practice like every day for like 3 months. I think I did it. I only had 24 days or something like that. So I did like 2 interviews probably like every day for 24 days. But
Whoa,
I made some really good friends through that process.
that's
And
amazing.
actually,
Yeah.
it was a lot of fun to just like problem solve and think through like a PM like on the spot. And I miss doing that. I love doing interviews for
Okay.
PM
Okay.
roles. So yeah,
Yeah. So the
fun.
next question is sort of about the transition, right? So what are some skills you have to learn versus unlearn from a PMM to a PM? Like, what are some things you say, oh, okay, I gotta shift my mindset? Or like, oh, this is something new I have never dealt before. But I guess in your case, you already experienced the 20% project. So you already know what's ahead of you, right? Okay.
Yes. And for me, and I do hear from a lot of others that have transitioned into the PM role is that the reason why I mean it's such a good fit is it actually takes advantage of many, many skill sets. And the PM requires
Mm-hmm.
like a very well-rounded set of skills, right? So everything from thinking about how you talk about your product, how you're gonna like communicate about it, like what's that headline, right? To analyzing the opportunity and looking at the data and where is the funnel broken,
Yeah.
and doing the user research to understand what users perceive and all this stuff and need were things that I did as a PM and
Mm.
also in my previous job when I was looking at like I was looking running a data insights team for the ads team. So all of that really is, I think, the skill for learning just
Mm.
just kind of it shifted to you need to learn fast.
Well, learn faster. Okay. Yeah.
and,
Faster as a PM.
yeah,
True. Yeah.
and it's like study grok what the problem is and then where you think you should spend the time to problem solve and improve things, but
Mm.
do it, you don't have a month, you have a week or you have days, and be able to be articulate in a conversation with very senior PMs that have been thinking, are the experts in the field of. So, for example, right now I'm working on passkeys, which is the password lists.
Yes, password list. It's popular.
Question.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm like, I didn't even know what passkeys were like 2 years ago. Right now, I'm in the room with experts that have been thinking about this and been trying to make this happen for the last 10 years. And how do
Mm.
I ask the right questions? Maybe not right, but just like ask articulate questions, do
Mm-hmm.
my homework, and really like try to do my part to progress the work rather than
Yeah.
be the person that's like, what's happening,
Right. You have to learn it faster. That is true because you
Yeah.
have to. I mean, I could be not an expert in one area, but I have to get all the resources I can find online, talking to other PM friends, and then really you gotta quickly grasp the concept, right? Because that's how you move forward. Is engineers are waiting for the roadmap. That's
Yes,
true.
they've already built it, waiting
Yeah.
for your roadmap. So yeah, but I actually really I knew when I was doing PMM, I remember a
Mm.
conversation with my manager then, like, what do you like? What kind of projects excite you? And I was like, I like the new stuff. Bring
Okay,
me a
that's
new
good.
problem because I like to wrap my head around understanding like why, what is the problem? What was the challenge of, why did people have problem solving this in the past? And then like trying to put my dent in it.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm really excited that that's part of my job as a PM. But
Yeah, yeah.
now it's
That's
like
good.
too
Yeah,
much.
it's too faster. Yeah. One last question is, what does a typical day look like for you as a product manager in London? How does that differ from other regions? Since you've been in London for, you said, 18 years, right?
Mhm.
I mean, I've never been to London. I want to visit sometime. Maybe we could meet up. I don't know, how does it work differently? Maybe it's the same from like a European product manager compared to a US based, or I don't know if you work in Singapore or other places, right? I mean, I would imagine there are some subtle culture differences, right? Or maybe your day is the same as like a Mountain View PM. Like, how is there any difference?
I think the biggest correlation is where is your team based?
Okay, that's true. That's true. Are your team
Because
based in London, or they are in
no.
Mountain View?
Well, there's like two other adjacent PMs, but all my engineers are actually based in Montreal, Canada. My
Oh, okay.
design counterpart and research counterpart and manager are in Munich, Germany. So for
Oh,
me, it's kind
okay.
of an interesting setup because I have my mornings with my Munich team, and then I have kind of thinking time, which is very, very you need to carve out your thinking time as a
Yes.
PM, deep thinking time. And then when Montreal comes on around 2, 3 p.m. my time, that's when they get barraged with like all of my chat messages and questions
Mm.
that I've queued up for them. But that's also when I have my project meetings with my engineers. And if needed, Mountain View meetings.
That's pretty
Most,
late.
most of
Yeah.
my there's Joe.
Hi, good to see you.
You're
Sorry.
being recorded.
Good to see you.
So I actually work with a few people in East Coast time. I think New York and DC, some other
That's
PMs.
a pretty global team for
So
Chrome. Wow, man.
that works
Yeah.
well for me. Yeah. So usually I'm like I can end my day by 6 or 7 p.m. And that works well. But I know some other PMs work with people in California Pacific time, and it's much
Mhm.
harder, and you can shift your hours to like start later, so you can work later, so you have more overlapping hours.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Yeah, your team sounds very diverse. It's different regions. You got Europe, you got, Montreal, you got, say some California folks. That's amazing. So
Yeah.
other than that, do you think, are there any culture differences between, a London PM versus a Mountain View PM? Or it's pretty much similar. It's all very Google standards.
Hmm. Google is such a big company. I would say there's probably no standard.
Oh, right, that's true. That's true. That's true.
But I would say I will speak from personal experience where I worked for like a very, very, very large organization in
Yeah.
search before.
Research. Oh, right, right, yeah, yeah.
And so the culture um, it was quite different when I moved to Chrome, which is, I think, a total of 1,700 or something like that. Like less than 2,000 people work for Chrome
Mm,
globally. So with a smaller org, you're always able to be a bit more intentional about the culture.
mm.
And what do you do on site? How often do you see people? What do you
Right,
do
right, yeah.
locally? I like that intimacy. I don't even
Yeah.
know how many people work in search, but it was like you're kind of on your
A
own.
lot. Yeah, yeah, that's true, that's true.
Or there's like so many layers, right? Like
Yeah.
when do I ever get to talk to a VP? But in Chrome, it's much
It's much
smaller, and
smaller.
I like it. It's like a little
Oh,
family. Yeah,
yeah.
I really enjoy Chrome.
So, are there any other PM teams in London, or Chrome is like the biggest one?
No, Chrome is super tiny in London, actually.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I don't know who is in London. I think there's Google, there's Google Fit, there's
Oh,
Android.
yeah, I use that app. Yes, you can see
Yeah.
how many steps you take per day. Yeah.
Android, there's Search. That's like a
Right.
huge mix of things. There's DeepMind. Yeah, I think even in our just like a few buildings, there's like thousands and thousands of people. So a lot of teams. I think that's the good thing about being in Europe is there is
Yeah.
actually like quite a few product hubs. The other one
Oh,
is,
right. Yeah, that's
yeah,
true.
the other big one is Zurich, like Germany, which is where a lot of my team is based.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much for your time, Sandy. I'm gonna stop the recording right now.
Thank you.